guys, today we're learning about ratios. Ratios are a pretty handy way of comparing quantities. So if we were comparing how many orange blocks we have here to how many black blocks we have here, we could write a ratio of 3 to 2. And that tells us that if we were to increase the number of blocks that we had, but still keep this same ratio of 3 to 2, we could have 30 orange blocks for every 20 black blocks, right? Or we could go even bigger, and if we had 300 orange blocks for every 200 black blocks, we would still have a 3 to 2 ratio. Now we're going to take a look at these pencils and write a ratio for how many blue pencils to yellow pencils we have. The really important thing you need to remember is that you need to keep track of which item goes first, okay? So we would have to make sure that we put the blue first. So we have 5 blue pencils for every 2 yellow pencils. Do you see how that works? So this would be called a part-to-part ratio. You're comparing how much of one part there is compared with how much of the next part there is. Here's another example for how many frogs to turtles. So you're going to write the ratio and then you're going to explain what the ratio means. So we have 2 frogs. Remember, we're always going to keep track of what comes first. So we'd say 2 and then put a colon to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 turtles, 2 to 5. And what does this ratio mean? It means for every 2 frogs, there are 5 turtles. Okay, so I'm sharing some of my fun coins with you from around the world, and we're going to use a data table to write ratios. So if we look at how many New Zealand dollars we have, there's the fun ones with the kiwis, we have 2. Norwegian kroners, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 of those. And we have these 20 pence coins from England, and we have 3 of those. So if we were to write a ratio of how many New Zealand dollars, we'll call that NZD, to kroners, these are the Norwegian, I'll put them Norwegian, we would say that we have 2 to 7. See? Or if we were to do New Zealand dollars to pence, we would say we have a 2 to 3 ratio. And that's how we use a table to write ratios. Now I want you to imagine a situation where you're given a situation like this. You and a friend work on math for a total of 12 hours. Whew, way to go. So you're going to write a ratio from what you see represented here in these boxes, okay? So you worked on it for 3 hours and your friend worked on it for 1 hour, okay? Now your total hours would be 4. Let's just keep track of that over here. So if you were to work on it for 8 hours, you would say you worked on it for 6 and your friend worked on it for 2. That's for a total of 8. But we want to know for a total of 12 hours. So we're going to expand this ratio and say you worked on it for 9 hours and your friend worked on it for 3 hours. And you're seeing this pattern that this increases by 3 as you go down on this side, plus 3, and this increases by 1. Okay, so there's a common rate of change there in your hours and your friend's hours, but if we were to reduce this down, 9 to 3 would reduce down to this ratio of 3 to 1. Okay, so you and a friend worked on it for 12 hours. Find out how many hours you worked and how many your friend worked. So you would say you worked for 9 hours and your friend worked for 3 hours. Okay, now sometimes you're going to have a 2-step process to write ratios. So here's an example. 14 of the students in a class ride a hoverboard to school. Wouldn't that be fun? There are 30 total students in class. What is the ratio of students who ride hoverboards? Let's underline that. We know 14 to those who do not. Do we know that information yet? We don't. So we're going to say 14 to, we need to figure out how many students don't ride hoverboards. So if there's 30 total, we're going to say 30 minus 14 and find out that we have 16 students who do not. So that would be our ratio of students who do and students who do not ride hoverboards to school. So my main tip for you as you use ratio is to remember to keep track of which quantity comes first. Remember, you're comparing 2 quantities. Underline which one comes first and make sure that that number comes first in your ratio. And the second quantity in your ratio would come second. It's the main thing to remember, and make sure that you have all the information you need when you're writing those ratios. Do the second step if you need to, and good luck on writing ratios.